Hello and welcome to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm Chris, aka Howard Blues, welcoming you back down here to my Cave of Wonder. It's a beautiful night outside, chilly, but a good night to sit down and do some painting. And hey, if you are new to the channel, welcome. Always glad to have more people checking this out. This is my bi-weekly, I think that's the way that we'd put it, hobby vlog where I share kind of the projects that I'm working on, maybe some hobby news that I care to talk about, and just try to paint and show off something. You know, usually it's a project I'm working on, and we just go and see what we get done in about an hour's worth of time. What am I doing tonight? Well, tonight, that was a bit of a struggle to get to the table, and let me explain why. A couple videos ago, I did a video on shaded metallics, a little tutorial thing and process that I have used on many a model. I thought it was worth sharing. It's, it's a kind of an interesting wash that gets kind of a nice little effect. Thought it was worth putting out there for the world, for others to maybe use, maybe level up their game just a wee bit. But I realized something as I was editing that video and getting it ready. I really should have shared how I do rust, because the first kind of step of that was have some rust to shade. So I needed a model to paint rusty, and I have spent probably the last 40 minutes down here in the cave trying to find just any model that I was like, I'm going to paint that rusty. I tend to know where most of my models are, and what's where, and boy, I couldn't find anything. I was like, yes, rust. I did find an interesting bin of stuff that I'm going to talk about those contents at some point before the show's over, because it's interesting. And then I remembered I had the perfect model that I could use as a demo model, and then I couldn't find it, and then I did. So, ta-da! This lovely piece of what on earth? Let me tell you what this thing is, because you might want to do this too. In the modeling process, we come up with scraps all the time. If you use corkboard for bases, you end up with some scrap. If you have models that you're trimming off a sprue, or just other bits of plastic and bobs and things like that, you end up with it. Leftover green stuff, all of it. And so what I have here is a thin piece of chipboard down here at the bottom that I have then taken, and just as I've done projects and had little bits of scrap, I just glued them on. No real rhyme or reason. The idea was just, let's create a rubble pile. And that's really what this is. This is a piece of terrain that I could use in a future game. It's just full of weird textures and bits of paper clip, chunks of metal shaved off of here and there, lots of plastic bits and bobs. You can even see a little bit of green stuff here, I think, from the last time. And you might notice that this is slightly painted. I started painting this thing and then was unhappy with how I was going with it, and I just kind of stopped. But I think this will be a good model to demonstrate rust, because there's a lot of metal and things in here that I can make rusty. And if I cover everything, that's okay too. I can be messy at this point and get away with it. So that's the project. We're going to paint some rust. And to start that process, this has already got some paint and some this, that, bits, bobs, gunk, all that fun stuff on it. There are some places that need some redarkening, and I want to get us all to a level. So I'm going to start with just some Umber brown from Reaper Miniatures. This is just a very, very dark brown. You could use a black in theory for this, or even a really dark gray could also work. Either one would be fine. I just like using a dark brown. And we're just going to pour some of this onto my palette. We're going to add some water. Definitely add some water because there's cork and things on here that I need that paint to easily soak into and to cover and all of that. I'm not going to lie. I think there's even chunks of this that aren't really primed even. So that's going to just be interesting. But this is, again, it's a scrap piece, and it may not turn out super fancy, but hopefully it's something that you could look at and go, yes, I could apply that to a model of my own. So we got it up here. I got a nice big beefy brush, and I'm just going to dip it in to that brown paint, and we're just going to slather this stuff on. And being that this already kind of has a bit of a coat to it, I'm not super worried about covering every inch and ounce of it, because it's all going to end up coated and taken care of to begin with. So we're just going to slather on kind of my dark brown and get it into all the crevices, every space I can get it. And I am not 100% worried about, is it perfect at this point? At this point, my true goal is just to kind of get it to a spot. And you'll notice I already have some black and such on it. Great. Mostly if this had been a regular model that I was painting, I would have hit it with some primer, probably of the black variety or a brown. Probably the black, though. Just because I like that it would make it a little bit darker. Yeah, this is just kind of a fun little, as I said, piece that nothing too special or anything like that. It's just been kind of my little junk piece that I throw stuff on as I have bits and pieces of things and models I've assembled and all of that. So just kind of a fun, build myself some terrain by kind of throwing stuff together. We're going to just slap that on, and I'm just using up all my paint that I have on there. As I said, normally it'd be primed, just like this green stuff isn't really taking the paint too well. That is okay. I can live with that. So we're going to let that dry for a little bit. And I'll actually probably just very quickly, because that green stuff is going to bother me. So while our monstrosity of terrain dries, let's talk about the bin. I already hinted at it. We might as well chat about this. I don't know where this bin has been, but I was surprised when I opened it up because I immediately was reminded of projects, and there's some interesting things in here. I probably won't pull it all out, but to pull out a couple of just interesting things. The first thing was this bag, which is from Reaper Miniatures. These are just stone tiles, and I picked them up. They'd make great dungeon tiles, that's for sure. I was thinking about using them more for basic, to the bones material. Kind of chunky, but they could work for a bigger monster, especially if you didn't care about the whole round base, square base controversy. So that was in there. That was a nice, interesting surprise. There's some other unique things in here that I mean, when we talk about a mishmash of stuff, this is a mishmash of stuff. To give you an idea, just how crazy. You see these right here. I have 3 wooden D6s that somebody has taken and just written numbers on to form very crude dice. I mean, I'm not even sure, because I got an 8, a 7, a 9, a 6, a 5, and a 4. So it's not even like the traditional D6. But I got 3 of those in this box. Don't know why I have them, but I do. In interesting bits of project and such that's in here, I have this thing. This, I think, is a conversion piece that I started putting together, kind of like a banner of sorts, per se. I think it's made out of sprue and green stuff to tie it on. So, not sure what I was going to do with this thing, but it's in there. Also, apparently I thought I needed more than one. I have another one here. Huh. I wonder what I was going to do with those. That's a really old project. I have in here. This is just how fun this is. I have some bits. These have a bit of what look to be like giant robot power gloves or power arms. If I'm not mistaken, I think these are Mantic pieces. I think it's off of one of their big stompy robot guys. I think they're just extra. I think it's one of those where you had to make arm selections, and so I have some extra arms. So some bits. Speaking of bits, I have a canopy for a fighter jet. I think this was a project that my nephew got. He got a model kit, and I think for some reason he chose not to put the canopy on. Either that or I got a plane somewhere without a canopy, but canopy off a jet. You feeling like this is weird? It's just gonna get a little bit more interesting. I have a Reaper Mousling little druid. No, this is their beekeeper. It's the Mousling beekeeper. So yeah, just a little Mousling beekeeper. He's holding a bee. Clearly something I've already scraped the mold lines off of, although I clearly didn't do a great job before I primed it. So a little Mousling beekeeper. He doesn't belong in this box. It's just interesting that these are in here. I have figures from the game Dust. I know that one looks really weird, but that's he's supposed to be more like that. Apparently his body turns. Dust was a little skirmish game, and the key thing was that these miniatures were supposed to be such that they you didn't have to prime them. You should have been able to just paint them. So I got a little rifle guy, a little javelin guy, a different. So 2 javelins. We got a couple of rifle corps guys there. We got this guy who looks like he's some sort of commander or action hero. I picked up all of these when Dust kind of went out of, well, when Dust went out of print, then I picked these up just as fun kind of miniatures. They're a little on the big side to fit in most scales, but I don't know, they're fun. And then we got some dudes in power armor. So some dudes in power armor. So fun future project. Let's maybe get a little weird. Here's something you probably didn't expect me to pull out. It's a Darth Vader helmet. Yeah. This was off of a thing of candy, and it was just a. You can kind of see on the bottom. It was originally blue. You can kind of see that little bit of blue there. But it was just this little toy Darth Vader helmet, and I just always thought, you know what, it'd be fun to paint Darth Vader's helmet. So it's already primed. It's been primed gray, ready to go. Whenever Howard was ready to do that. I showed you Academy. I found the pilot. He's we have our pilot for our plane. I guess my nephew decided he didn't want the pilot in there. And now let's get into the thing that, hey, you know what? Maybe someday we'll bring views to the channel. We got Warhammer in here. That's right, Warhammer. I have in here a bunch of Space Marines. This guy's missing an arm. Probably find that in the bottom. This guy is also missing a hand. Clearly, this is the Space Marines who've seen better days. We got this one. And just for anybody who's out there who's a Warhammer fan who's looking at this and going, these aren't legal builds. You can't take power claws with a whatever that is, and that there's a shield that broke off. On that, you can't take that or anything like that. Truthfully, what this was leftovers from a diorama project that I took and just made some Space Marines to paint. I didn't play Warhammer 40k, so there's another one missing an arm, and hey, look, an arm. So I don't really like officially play. So I just kind of took and made up Space Marines in kind of a fun way to paint, just as a leftovers from the diorama project, because why should I not paint these things and just have fun? So yeah, just some of the old Warhammer 40k Space Marines. I'm sure there's another just arm, so I'll probably find the other pieces for that as I dig. But that's, for those who like their Warhammer in the fantasy realm, and especially of the old world, I have this thing. Yeah, I believe that's a Bretonnian knight. Can't tell you much more about it. You might notice the weird non-banner piece. I bought this piece off of eBay just as a cheap model because it was missing pieces and such. And I just thought he needed I think he was supposed to have a banner. I think I had at the time looked it up, but I was like, I don't have a banner bit. So this is all green stuff for the finny holes and for kind of the hilt, because I think he had just that little bit there. And then this is just Q-tip. They cut off the ends and kind of function a banner. I need to still make the banner part, but a cool model is in there. And then you might be going, but Howard, what else is in there? Really, I'll save you the rest. These are okay. Well, I guess there's two things in here. Three things. Sorry. I'm recognizing more things as I dig. The first thing is I got a Tauren. World of Warcraft, anybody? This is one of the World of Warcraft figures, I believe, that they put out. Or, no, wait. I think it's not a D&D figure. Anyway, it's a Minotaur for some game where I just bought a pre-painted miniature. And then there's... I forget the game. Let's see if it says it here. Oh, yeah, Rackam. Anybody who knows miniatures knows Rackam. And Rackam was this really awesome company that made really, really cool miniatures. And I picked up these out of their pre-painted line. They are basically gorillas in power armor. They're just fun. I really wish Rackam was still around, because they made fun things like that and really beautiful models. Someday I'll talk more about Rackam. And then the last thing that's in here are a bunch of Mage Knight random pre-painted miniatures that I really don't have a need for, and I will probably let my kids play with, minus the ones that are going to give them nightmares, like this crazy deer lord who has ripped his antlers off and is preparing to beat you down with them. Yeah, they might need to wait for that one. So that's what's in here. I'm trying to just quickly... Oh, yeah. Some more bits. So there's definitely some interesting things in here. I'm going to clean up. I found one of the missing power hammers. Also, I just have to add, the same game that has Mr. Hardcore Deer. I mean, Dear Lord even has like scratch marks in his back, and you can take him on with a pair of spellbound scissors. That's right. Place your bets, folks. Dear Lord, who's ripped his own antlers out, or magic scissors. So, yeah, an interesting set. Here's another little army guy. I think he goes on a tank that I have for dust. So this clearly was just a box of stuff that I had. So there's the other tank guy. Found him. You know what? I don't think this is Mage Knight. Now that I think about it, I think these are from a weird Dreamscape game. I'm trying to grab their head in here. Come here, Red. Come here, Red. Yeah, okay, got the head. Yeah, actually, as I look at this, Dreamblade. Ah, yeah. This goes into the Wizards of the Coast. I don't know what this thing is. If you can identify this thing, good on you. Actually, I can tell you, it's a brain ghast. That's so yeah, Dreamblade. It was a Wizards of the Coast game, kind of in their whole pre-painted line. I'm going to be really upset if I'm still missing an arm or something, but I have more bits, so I'm not going to worry about it. But anyway, that's what's in here. I got to find homes for some of this stuff that isn't just a random box, but yeah. The joys of when you move and putting stuff there. Looking at this thing, it is still pretty wet, so I don't want to work on that quite yet. I think waiting for paint to dry. Luckily, I have a box, and what should be my last of the Steamforged Warmachine mini crates, I believe, is what is in here. I recently just canceled my subscription to Minicrate. That's the big boy. Huh. Again, not because I hate the product or that. I just want to spend my hobby money elsewhere. And so, opening this up. Not sure exactly what it is. This looks like it has multiple pieces. Let's try not to spill them. Okay. Wow. That is let me show this thing off. This is pretty cool. He's got an axe arm that would go roughly like that. I mean, it's cool. I don't know what it is, but it is chunky. Look at that. Look at the thickness on that cape. He is dressed for winter weather. I mean, that is very chunky. I will give this for the Warmachine and kind of the new figures. And I loved their old figures, but they have kind of really leaned into the steampunk kind of fantasy a little bit more. And they just, I don't know, these just have a little bit more of a flavor that fits, like, to me, this guy could fit into like a World of Warcraft sort of paint scheme. He's cool. He's definitely cool. Again, not sure what he is, but a cool figure and a chunk. Wow. One of the things I will say that as a negative, I don't usually dwell into the negatives when it comes to like the Minicrate stuff too much. But one of the problems I always did have with it was you rarely got like the big beasties, which are kind of the thing that made it cool. Like, I didn't really care about the giant mechs. I wanted the big hordes monsters because those things were cool and I wanted more of those. And they never really put those out in like the Minicrate. It was very rare. They did like, and when they did, they would do it in an interesting way. So like one of the first examples is the Swamp Siren, which was their first, I think it was their first mini. And you can see mine that I am been eternally working on painting. I've just been really careful with that one. I don't know why. I think it's just a lovely model and I just want to do it right. And that becomes a little thing of like a little bit here, working on my gradients and all of that. And it's just, I'm taking my time. Okay, back to Rust, because this video is now longer than I thought it would be. This is mostly dry, but I think I can demonstrate. So now that I have kind of that dark brown on, I want to add in some various colors. And we're going to kind of go through a whole little progression of stuff with this. And we're going to work from kind of a little bit darker or a little bit brighter brown than that umber. We'll go up to kind of a tan color. You know what I just noticed is I think that might be a metallic. I don't want that. Anyway, we want a little bit more of a, there we go. This will work. A little bit more of a tan color, and then a red, kind of a darker red, or you can find like a red oxide color. Either one will work. I'm gonna add a little bit more of a red, and then I got an orange. I got kind of a reddy orange here. Again, yeah, kind of an in between, and then I got a yellow. So I have my colors, and for this kind of bit out, we're going to be moving a bit away from the brush with this. We have our dark. We will do a little bit of dry brushing at some point. Our next kind of step with this, though, is you're gonna want a junky brush. I have this lovely junky. Look at the tip on this thing. That is a sweet tip. This is a really old junky brush. And we're gonna take our next brown color, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna stipple it on in places. Just a messy kind of stipple, kind of over the dark. I don't want to go too watery, but I do want a little bit of water on my brush. And I'm going to try and take off actually quite a bit of the paint. Again, not quite doing a dry brush, but I'm just going to take and stipple this on. And you can see, I'm not trying to cover everything with it. I just trying to, though, put up a pretty good kind of layer on here. And it's okay if I, some of it is just pressing down on it so it makes splotches. If some of it is kind of a quick brush or streak, that's okay too. There's no right way to do this. The goal with this is just, as I said, to have some fun, put some color on here, and hopefully get it done fairly quickly. So, again, just kind of dropping stuff everywhere. And on this, because I have some stuff that will clearly probably be like more of a rock, that's fine. You might also notice there's some texture on here. I did that with just a little sand and PVA glue, just to be honest with that. But as I was saying, I got some rock and other stuff on here. That's fine. If I get a little brown and such, brown will fit well with rock. So yeah, just kind of, as I said, shoving it on, hitting some different spots, not completely getting complete and total coverage, although we do want to try and cover a good chunk of it, but not complete. I'm purposely leaving it very splotchy. That's a bit of the goal. Yeah, that's it for that. Color. Gonna move up. So I used Reaper's Russet Brown for that one. Gonna switch over to their Woodland Brown, which is even more tan. Again, I'm gonna get just a couple drops of this. And you give this one a shake quick. And we're gonna do the same thing. Junky brush, but I'm gonna be a little bit more, I'm gonna pull back a little bit. I don't want to necessarily hit it quite as hard as I hit it with that last one. We are really just trying to add some depth and color to this. And so I'm just, again, going to try and take a lot off, and I'm just going to kind of hit it in a couple of spots. I don't want to go too heavy with this, but part of it is also when I get to other colors, like we will be here in a bit, having some lighter stuff will allow it. It'll allow the underpaint to kind of shine through a little bit, because now when those other colors, like red, when you paint it on a dark color, doesn't really come through real well. This will allow it to hit some of these kind of light spots that I've done and hopefully stick out just a little bit more. Again, I don't want a ton of paint. Again, I just kind of slap it on where I think, and it's okay if I make a mistake on something, or maybe I don't hit enough here or some of that, because again, with as messy as this process gets to be, it'll be all right. It's artistic. It's fun. I realized I missed the back of this circle thing, so you know what? I just slapped some extra of this on. Maybe it'll miss a little bit, but again, I'm not worried about that because it's just all part of trying to change it up. So as you can see, we now got some nice, and it looks really bright when it's first going on, but as it dries, it's going to dry darker. And it's just going to add some variety to it. It's going to make our metal look a little bit just different in places. It's kind of a quick shade or highlight in some regards. Again, I'm not worried too much about it being perfect. Worrying about getting this process perfect is just stress you don't need. Okay. Now, we're moving up to red. And for this, I'm going Victory Crimson, a darker red. Again, you can go brighter red if you prefer. I like a little bit darker red in this process. Again, just a couple drops on my palette. Now, here we're going to change it up because I want to change things around a little bit. And I'm moving away from my crappy brush to a different medium, a bit of foam sponge. And I just keep some of these from blisters. I'm just really going to take and just rip a chunk off. Yeah, something like that. And then I can curl up. If you don't like getting paint on your hands, of course, you can wear gloves. You can also use, I have a little vice tweezers I could use. I don't really care at this point. And I just want to kind of take, and I might even look at it, and if I don't have enough, like maybe variety, I might pluck a little bit here and there out. I just want to create something that has some odd texture to it. Kind of like this. I'm going to take it, I'm going to dip it in my red, and then I'm going to just dab that off on a paper towel I have here, almost like you're dry brushing. And then I'm going to come in and we're just very gently going to dab this on, and let it hit where it hits. Again, I'm not going to worry because my last step on this process is going to hopefully cover any incredible mistakes I make with this. So just kind of dabbing it all around. Again, it's not really staying on. I'm going to have to fix my grip here in a bit. But yeah, just throwing on some red. That's the key to kind of remember with it. It will dry darker, and I know some people are going to look at this and go, gosh, that looks really, really bright red. But you know, I like my rust a little bit more on the bright side. Okay, let's see if that'll work. So now that we've done red, like I said, my next color, I have this sample paint. It's a little reddy orange color. Just going to take, and I'm going to take actually my same chunk of sponge that I have, dip it in a little bit, dip it out. Now I haven't cleaned this off or cleared it up, real, and so it's going to kind of give me those two colors a little blended. And again, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try and hit less, but again, like I just nailed that rock or chunk pretty hard. That's okay. I'm going to try and kind of hit over the same spots, but it's okay if I hit new spots. Again, it's going to react to kind of everything else that has been thrown down. All right, moving up, we're going orange. So we hit kind of that orangish, reddish brown color that I just had. This time I'm using some lava orange. And again, I'm not doing a lot. Each one of these layers becomes kind of significantly less and less with that orange, and it's going to be even brighter. They nail a glob right there. We're just trying to, again, hit some of the spots we've hit before. The sponge gives it a texture to it. All right, last one. We're going to go in with some beautiful lantern yellow. Going to just come in, dab, 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 dab. And the fact that I keep using the same sponge, that'll help with, again, mixing colors. The yellow always seems like it's so stinking bright when I do this. Try to be as light as I can with the yellow. I'm not looking for a ton of yellow on here, but the yellow does kind of help. I'm going to let that dry for just a wee bit. Here's the next step. I'm going to describe it as we go. I have some tarnished steel, and I'm just going to actually take a normal dry brush, and I'm just going to use one of these, but you could, of course, use a makeup brush if you wanted. Whatever works best. Whatever you like. But I'm going to dry brush this thing. And I'm just going to just hit... again, the high points, like I'm just normally dry brushing. Here's the interesting thing, because when you dry brush, it covers, but it's not a perfect coverage, right? Usually you get to see a bit of the layer beneath. All of this hard work and stuff that I've plopped on is going to get covered up. And not all of it, though. There's going to be bits that peek through and shine through, and this is how I I kind of get all of that kind of interest and layers to it. And that's why it's okay if I globbed a little extra on here or I globbed a little extra on there. It's going to be okay because my dry brush step is going to knock that back down, and I think it's going to allow some to come through. Also, as you dry brush, your color isn't going to necessarily stay the same kind of throughout. Your paint's going to run off your brush. So some areas might end up with a thicker coat of this silver. Some places might end up with a lighter and lets more stuff through. So that's the beauty of this kind of process. Is it gets you kind of it gets a finish that seems organic and natural, a bit like rust, without being too forced, which is good, because sometimes if you're like me, you can get into your head a little bit about some of this stuff, and when you do that, you lose out on that natural feel. You end up with just a very prescribed rust and weathering. So I have some on my brush here, and I'm just going to, like I would anything else, dry brush it in. And what you should hopefully be seeing is that what tends to happen is my rust, yeah, a good chunk of it is going to get covered up. But for the most part, a good chunk of it will stay out, and we get a nice bit of contrast and such with it. So I'm kind of focusing in on this lid and this pipe here. And if anything, if it comes on a bit too much, that's okay, because it's going to still have that grimy look. You can see right here that yellow is still shining through, even though I've kind of hit this with it. With the silver, that yellow still shines through. It still has that coloration, even though I've hit it with this silver color. And that's the goal. I also don't try to cover up everything. I want, again, some places to be a bit more on that silver side of things. And in the end, I'm going to take and come back in with that shaded metallics that I did in that other video. Go check that one out. And I'll use that to kind of come back in and kind of shade this in, and it will help with everything. So as you can see, I'm kind of been just sticking to this silver, but you could do this with other colors as well, you know, of metal, to try and create some different effects. Maybe I want, you know, like this panel right here has a very kind of metal panel. I could hit that with some green. I'm doing this all in silver, but I have a feeling I will come in and probably glaze in some other colors to vary this up a bit and to get some more variation on it. See, so those pipes where I got a little too much, it's okay now because I'm hitting it with this, and it's just, again, hoping to hide all of that, but at the same time keep my rust going. I feel like I keep saying the same thing, but I'm hoping that the point just gets across. So there you go. Right now, I'm actually feeling pretty good about this. It's got just enough kind of color. It definitely needs a shade to knock some of these things down, and I saw a spot here that I missed. And I'll probably look to see if I missed anywhere else. And again, I'm going to come in. This was just as a demo to kind of show the different things. I'll probably come in to this and paint a few things with some more specifics to help get a little bit more variety in this whole scene. Like I'll probably do a little bit of coppering and such on this pipe, or maybe this one, just to change it up and create some variety. But I got a great start to this. And here's the other cool thing about this. You could do the same thing, and I do actually a fairly similar process with rock. In fact, maybe the next vlog, I'll do a little rock. I have plenty of rocks I can paint. But there you go. A nice little bit of work done on this crazy barricade thing that I started building many, many years ago. But yeah, not bad for a little night project and to show. And hopefully you found my digging through that box interesting. If you made it this far, I do appreciate it. It's always great to have people who take in this whole video and hopefully enjoy the process and the stories and my hobby successes and fails. That's what this is about. It's about really just providing a chance for us all to hobby together. And that, hey, if you have a comment or if you have your own take on Rust or that you feel is worth sharing, hey, put it down in the comments. I always like hearing new techniques and new methods. And with that, yeah, if you enjoyed this, maybe consider giving a like and a subscribe. You don't have to, but I appreciate it if you do. And with that, hopefully we'll catch you all back down here in the cave again next time. Good night, everybody.